know, gentlemen, we had a great show, and this is the last session of the day. In fact, this is a kind of a closed session now. Like you said, from the main door to closed doors. So we had a lot of meaningful sessions today. At etbfsi.com, we curate content in different formats. That's the liberty that we have, because the website has, that a venue where we can write articles, we can do podcasts, we can do interactive graphics, we can do videos, and more importantly, we do such sessions where the burning topics of the industry, the trends that we discuss, we bring together the change makers and discuss some topic. Just to give us some example, recently we picked up one topic called digital lending, and मेरा एक महीने का रोजी रोटी निकल गया because I had more than 3 lakh page views only on that one story, because RBI discussed that topic very aggressively, right? So we keep doing such sessions, knowledge sessions or maybe private sessions, so that we can learn and maybe interact with the people and get different perspectives. So and obviously sometimes we don't get enough space also in the main sessions. So we have this session called segment of one, where we are going to again discuss digital, how the customer journey is, how the insurance, how the whole BFSI companies are looking at, their digital strategies predominantly, how they are making tailor-made products, or more importantly, hyper-personalization. All these aspects we'll try our best to, cover here. So I have with me, starting Mr. Karsit Tawadia from, BSc, who knows no introduction. You are just there with us in that session as well. We also had Hari Nair from HDFC Securities, who was also part of that session. We have Sandeep Ranjan, the CDO of Shriram Housing Finance. Thank you for joining us. And we have, I'm so sorry, Nilotpal Gupta, right? That's right. Nilotpal Gupta, the head data science, ICICI Securities. So again, a different perspective, broker, housing finance, NBFC, and exchange as well. So to begin with, I'm sorry, we also.
I'm the odd man out.
No, I hope we have Murli Krishnan also from ThoughtWorks. So thank you so much, Murli. We'll try to learn a lot from you. And so to begin with, segment one is the concept. Basically based on a lot of aspects, but 2-3 major aspects are content, tailor-made products, and optimized services is what they call it. So to begin with, Mr. Tawadia, I will come to you. What are your views on all these aspects, whether meaningful content, tailor-made products, or advice, or optimized services, specifically in a BFSI sector, which known as segment of one?
It's very difficult to, I would say, the concept thought is good, okay, but within BFSI itself, it's a huge, today BFSI, I would say, there's nothing common between, say, for example, we call BFSI, but you include the exchanges also, the insurance also. All three are poles apart, like the regulations, the requirements, and everything. So the fact that you're trying to marry 3 regulators, okay, all 3 of the 3 different regulators, 3 different ways of thinking. So if you can get whatever that one you said, service, what you said, so segment one, whatever that, if you can make it as one regulated entity, at least with a commonality, then all these things flows down from there, makes sense. Otherwise, it's a thought which is, it can be good in a specific, say for example, in a capital markets, in a bank, in a insurance, like they say, because generally that's the 3 entities you try and club when you're talking about the BFSI or the NBFCs for that matter. So in that sense, I would think it will make, it's basically 4 verticals within this. When you say the 4 letters, actually there are 4 different verticals that you are trying to portray. What would happen, and this is what I have been trying to talk in many forums also, is it has to start from try and find out the common denominator, the least common denominator, if you say in mathematical terms, if you can say what is common across all these industries, okay, and can you take that out and put it up on a common platform, whether it's the rules for the KYC, I would say. Ultimately, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with individuals in finance, giving a financial services to some set of individuals who are classified. So there is some sort of investment happening through different modes and different things. So if you can pull these two things out or three things out, and then what is distinctive to that group, leave it to that group to debate. Because I was just 2 minutes back, somebody was asking me, what is this CKYC? There's so many parameters, so many different things. Even we are also fed up on it. We have to, all the 3 or 4 segments have to come out with what you require for a customer. So why can't we see, I always telling, India has one GST, one tax, why can't we have one KYC? For an individual, like if I can have one Aadhaar number, if my Aadhaar is my identity, for everything today they ask you your Aadhaar. Why can't be that Aadhaar be asked for everything? And that is a fine. Why can't we make it simpler? But somehow everybody is not having the same tune that you require so many else. What you require additional, as I said, if you require 50 parameters, 40 will be common, 10 will be optional, 10 the other guys may not require it. You can leave it at that, live with that. So can we do a life easier? So that's what I was trying to say. If you're trying to portray segment 1, I would look in that perspective of how you can make the life of a common man easier to invest. How do you attract more people to come to? Today, people are confused, like I would say, okay, whether to come to capital markets, whether to go to a bank, whether to go to a mutual fund, or whether to invest to this insurance investment schemes. There's total confusion. There is no, and everybody says, I am better than the other. Okay. So I am myself, I'm facing this day in, day out when I also try to make whatever investments I have to do. I have to think so much. Now, who's going to, and all the R&D, all the marketing guys will try and give you the product pitch that they are the best. But when it comes to the regulatory part of it, then you sign 50 forms. Okay. Many times you sign on blank forms. Even today you do that. आप खाली इधर sign कर दीजिए. Like no, we'll fill up the rest. I really don't know what is going to fill up the rest. Okay, for. So why can't we stop that? Why do you require today? If I remember, if Hari can correct me, if in a broking company, when I was also in a broking few years ago, there had been 32 signatures on that one account opening. Okay, 30 signatures. Why would you require 30 signatures on a page? Okay, so somewhere down the line we need to think. We have still not gone. We have gone digital. We have not given up paper. That is the biggest flaw in the system. We all talked. We have gone completely digital, but we have also made this digital is like provisional, but we still need the paper to make it mandatory, legal, and compliant. So I think that somewhere down the line, that is it's a rosy picture that we have gone digital, but we have not given up paper. So it is actually, in a way, you are doing double work.
I think quite relevant points. I think quite relevant points. I don't know whether others will agree. Those who are actually talking about digital a lot, not this panelist, but the whole world is talking about UI UX. But in reality, they're asking you to scan the copy and send it and take the printout again, right? I think very relevant points. Hari, do you want to add your perspective on these 3 aspects?
Yeah, Kersi has covered almost everything. There's hardly this to speak. He's been a veteran in the industry, so he's kind of become an encyclopedia. You just open up at the topic in financial services or banking, insurance, you'll hear from Kersi. Just 2 things which I wanted to put across from the segment of one perspective. Okay, see, if you take BFSI, okay, it's again 3 regulations are there. One is RBI regulated, one is SEBI regulated, other one is insurance regulated, IRDA regulated. Okay, within SEBI also you have that the mutual fund as a one split, which is basically AMFI kind of comes. So giving a perspective to the customer, kind of the same experience is very difficult. Okay, probably bank-based brokers like us and them, we are probably the closest compared to anyone who can do that. Okay, second thing is the banks are providers, stock exchanges are providers, again depositories are providers, insurance are providers. We are the distribution game. So which means we cover all the aspects. We distribute banking products also, which are like 3-in-1 accounts, which ICICI does or HDFC does. We sell fixed income products, we sell insurance, we sell everything. Okay, so but within us, we don't have a single KYC journey. Okay, so that's a big challenge because it's regulated different. Other than Aadhaar having a one digital form or a PAN having a one digital form, still the information which we collect from the customers are different to different products. I cannot have one KYC to onboard all my products, and that's a big bottleneck at this moment as an industry which have. So if we cover BFSI as widely, then for customer going through the KYC journey to the individual providers is still unique. Okay, so we start our journey from bank. Okay, the customer goes and opens an account in bank, which means he has provided everything to the banking. He just gets onboarded on the broking, and then from there we sell insurance or other thing. We still collect multiple information from customers. Customer have to still go through, sign documents. Now that it's digital e-signs, and again from there he wants to buy another product, he still goes through one more KYC journey. So this journey for every product which we keep selling in the wider spectrum of BFSI, customer have to go through this pain. That's a one problem. We still don't have one way of consolidating this and providing a single KYC. But there's another area which I see probably a segment of one would be the right fit, which is what called as a financial portfolio side. Okay, because that's going to be the one. Okay, irrespective of wherever you have your investments or insurance and everything, you consolidate one portfolio, which means you will have one seamless experience to the customer. Okay, irrespective whether I provide my banking. Now that so far it's pretty heavy lifting which we need to do to provide the financial portfolio. But with account aggregators, which has come up in the last year, I think in the next couple of years, that's going to be the one big thing for the BFSI industry, because everyone will integrate with account aggregators and can get the complete information of the customer, which includes your DMAT statement, which includes your banking, which includes your digital insurance, which again will come from the DMAT. You're going to cover all his financial transactions into one go, and that would be the right fit. And again, from the content perspective, if you touch upon, again, content is different because it's a different providers. But again, from the distribution side, we wanted to still look at it, provide to the customers, the unified content experience to the customers, though they come by any kind of a financial asset classes. Okay, we wanted to give a single experience to the customer. It's challenging for us. We are still not there, but probably with account aggregators coming in, and then we'll be able to provide one unified way of managing the entire financial transaction to the customer.
I think, again, very relevant and good rejoinder to what, Mr. Tavadia added, Hari. Let me shift or maybe tweak a question. Obviously, the question is the same first, your perspective, but let me add to it, and I will come to you, Sandeep. What if, the companies doesn't do this? I mean, organizations tend to lose. What does organization tend to lose if they don't embrace these three aspects, which we known as segment one, according to you, in terms of customer experience or customer, delight?
So what they have just placed is essentially the pain that all the people who are working in digital side of the organizations are actually going through. But keeping that there, segment of one, essentially the whole concept is about hyper-personalization, right? As a concept, this obviously needs to be embraced, but the problem that most of the companies are getting into in the segment of one approach is they are using it as a tactical tool. This is not a tactical tool. This is a strategic tool which needs to be implemented with a thought through, complete end-to-end thought through, with the complete backing of the senior management. If we try to do, we have done one tweak and we claim that we have done segment of one approach, that is not going to work. And most of the companies, if you see around, they would not have a proper data management process or a policy as well. You might have dispersed data sitting on multiple different levels, and unless you combine all of that, you would not get the advantage of segment of one. So it's an evolving thing. So for example, the pain points of Aadhaar or KYC that you have just said, we've evolved, right? So even for KYC, for example, banks and financial services who have the eKYC services, we're able to do it on the fly today, which was very, very difficult, say 5 years ago when Aadhaar was not so prevalent, right? So these are things that are evolving. Account aggregator is also coming in for companies like us in there. So this is an evolving environment. We need to be prepared for it, and if we don't do it, I think the only risk we have is there are a lot of startups lurking around in the corner, and we have to be prepared for it. That's my view on this.
Okay. Quite meaningful, Sandeep. So again, let me tweak the same question for you, Nilotpal, because we discussed the current challenges. What if we don't do that? So moving a little ahead, if you could tell us, how can incumbent or maybe specifically FSIs like that unlock the value of potential of their data assets to operationalize data-driven customer engagement? Because what we discussed today is only customer engagement. And how can we do it better with these three aspects, or data or analytics?
Yeah, I think one of the paradigm shift that we need to make is, and coming to segment of one, is we need to think about the customer and not the product first. Because what's happening most of the time is, the example that he gave and Hari gave is that customer is the customer. So let's say I'm a customer. I opened a demand account. I invested in some shares. Now I want to do mutual fund. I submit another set of document. I want to do NPS. I submit another set of document. Eventually, it is the same customer who is taking different products and services. So the regulatory aspect probably will remain. But what is important to understand, that here is an individual, here is the same customer who is looking at different kind of products and / services at different life stages of his or her need. And as part of that, through data and analytics, if you are able to understand here is what the individual is looking for and not pushing products. So there is a difference that this is what as the customer is looking for, you recommend, and that's where the power of digital personalization, data and analytics comes in, right? That here is what I understand this individual more by collecting more and more data points, and then recommending because the messaging needs to be different, is that people like you have invested and we feel this is beneficiary, rather than going and telling, I have a product, take it, this product has this feature, that feature, all of that. The customer might not need that product, right? So the industry's things have changed, that do I understand the customer more? When I say customer more, the need of the customer, and that give that flexibility to the customer to choose the product, rather than doing the other way around. And that's where I think the power of data analytics, digital, with all new age tool coming in, right? You are, capturing each touch point of the customer in your ecosystem is going to help to recommend the customer. Because see, we have to remember one thing, that there are more and more new age customers are coming into the market, right? They have 10x information available than what perhaps it used to be some 10, 15 years back, right? So all we need to do is ensure that there's enough understanding we have about the customer, and we make things available to them. Eventually, it is a customer who is going to choose. And that's where I see the power of data and analytics has got huge potential, because the more and more information you collect about the customer, the more and more touch points in the digital analytics platforms you get, it helps you to segment the customer more and understand the customer better.
Can I add to what you said? Just a point, what you're saying, a lot of people are collecting a lot of data from them, but they're actually not doing a value add. For example, I'll again give a personal experience from both the bank and the insurance company. Every year when you're trying to get a new investment policy on them, why do you want to take my Form 16? You already have taken once. Last year you took it. This year, why do you want, if I mean it? Because all you want to know whether this person's source of income is identified and is capable to pay the premium. Similarly, I happen to have the same bank. When we had an account, then I had my joint account with then I opened my pension account. again, I'm already a customer of the bank. Okay, just because now I'm opening a pension account, something, please give all the KYC documents again. Now it's the same bank. It's not a new bank. I'm already a customer. I have already customer ID. So the idea of collecting papers, I don't know why it's required to. There's absolutely zero intelligence in being done on the data that is getting collected.
And to add to that, I think, see, Aadhaar is a classic example where in so many sectors, Aadhaar is now accepted. And I think we need to think about, when we say segment of one, the idea has to be simplified and not, think about too much of adding too many things, because ultimately the objective has to be that we have to make the life simpler for customer. We understand the customer better, and thereby it helps both sides. So I think that's the forward-looking thing that we have to think. It may not solve, overnight, but that's how we need to go towards that.
Very relevant, and when you say that it's not going to solve overnight, it will take a long time. I'm sure it will, but very relevant and realistic points, because I think it's a headline for me: customer versus product. Because here, the people are using data to sell anything and everything, right? For example, if I'm buying books on Amazon all the time keeps selling me books. Now, sometimes I may want to buy shirts also, right? But they want to sell me only and only books. So this is how, they are using the data. And that's why we said, understand the customer first, then the product is a very valuable point, because the BFSI system is based on the cross-selling. And that's where, they are growing. I mean, it's not sad or bad, but, I think using data proficiently is very important. So, Murli, I think you will have a completely different perspective, because these are individual BFSI companies and you have different solutions. You must be talking to a lot of financial institutions and companies. So my question to you is, in your conversation with the BFSI companies, what is your observation? What is it that you learn on segment one? And more importantly, what are the FSIs doing according to you to nurture customer trust? How are they ensuring customer data, security, privacy are not compromised even in a pure play data monetization business model?
Yeah, very interesting and very relevant topics, and very different perspective from a very, from an infrastructure side I heard, and from a banking and the trading side of things. But I think what we're really doing is flipping the, problem the other side of it. Customer says, look, the complexity behind what's happening on any environment is not my problem. And they've got used to Netflix, Spotify, Amazons, and one day delivery and all this. Yeah, that's the kind of same experience they're expecting, right? I think the revolution is now an engagement revolution. There's a purpose-driven revolution. People want to be associated with what's the sense of purpose, right? I mean, why am I banking with you? What do you stand for? The values that I care about. Though the other part of thinking about it is loyalty and inertia the same, right? Yes. Because sometimes the pure lack of choices, we sometimes mistake as a loyalty, but that's not the case. Loyalty is up for grabs, right? And the other point that I'm seeing a positive change that's happening is, the moving from an open banking, which is sort of an account aggregator, to an open finance, where we talked about, we get all these sorts of data, to an open data where it's just not finance. I mean, you might see my health records and whatever I wish to share with you. Yeah. And then can you give me an offer which makes sense for me, right? Because that's the n equal to 1. I mean, the concept is very, very old. But what's helping now is the availability of data, the kind of laws that's helping that, and the putting customer first, and be it from the perspective of PI data consent sharing, whom do I wish to share to? And one of the perspective I heard on the last conversation about data resides where data source is. Earlier it used to be the case, if I want to run a ML algorithm on it, I take the data, move it to where my algorithm is, I run it, the model is, and I run it. Now the thing has flipped, saying that data stays there, you send the algorithm there, you consume the result, not the data, right? And I think these kind of movements that are happening are very positive in that sense, and then that kind of addresses the data privacy and other sort of aspects as well. Now coming to our own experiences with BFSI implementation of hyper-personalization solution, right? We look at it, within the segment where we operate, whether it's banking, whether it's trading, whether it goes to investment, can you make the the customer feels special, right? And there what we look at is, the demographic data, the behavioral data, the engagement data, the transaction data, and whatever data you can pull in. I mean, data exchanges are there. And then can you give something very meaningful? It shouldn't be just like, the credit card company calls you get. And you don't even know where they're getting the call, data from. They call you, do you want a credit card? And the same thing. And even organizations where you have multiple relationships, like, you might have bought a car, or you might have a holiday with somebody. They call you to sell the same thing again and again. Because who would want that, right? At least, and then there are moments as well, because a lot of this, is contextual. If I'm getting late to catch my flight, I don't want somebody to be calling and telling me, look, do you want this product? Vis-a-vis when I'm taking a leisurely sort of vacation and somebody is advising me, hey, your portfolio looks like this, why don't you switch? Do that. So there are various options. And I was sort of looking at CSDL and NSDL statements that you get, right? Very blank statements. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. Good amount of data. But can you gamify it? Can you then sort of put in my trading account portal? Can I upload it? And then can you sort of do a portfolio rebalancing or give me an advice? I mean, all these things are possibilities, but I think that's the engagement revolution where, engage me, give me meaningful content, make me feel special. And that's what we expect wherever we go, irrespective of banking or any other domain. Go to a restaurant, you want them to treat you, nicely, say a hi, oh, you've come here, this is your special order or something like that. I think that's where we are seeing a lot of movement happening. There are challenges, I could touch upon it, but maybe once I get perspective from that.
Can I just add a point here? Taking, what both of you said. See, now the current age customers, there's no loyalty. That's everyone knows, okay. So they find the best one, they move, okay. So harnessing that data, okay. What we have to eventually understand is customer is the product. We are not selling any product to customer. Customer is a product. Okay. We have to make everything out of that particular product by offering so many things. Okay. By giving right offerings at the right time. Else that customer will shift elsewhere. And that is a problem everyone is facing right now. You take that in e-commerce. It's very, a common phenomena in e-commerce. You keep looking at everywhere. The one good thing in BFSI is you're glued with your financial transactions. So you tend to stay slightly longer. Okay. But this longer period is 10, 15 years back, it's longer means it's really longer. But now it's longer means it's about 1 year, 2 years. That's it. At best, your tax returns of this year is ready. You can move to any other provider to get into. So within this year, it means you have a very shorter time to understand your customer. You don't have that longer time to understand customer where you can keep harnessing for a longer period of data. So you have very shorter time. What customer does today, probably next 2 days you need to understand, analyze so that you will know where you stand and what you can offer. Okay. So this particular thought process has to sink in with all enterprises. At least in the BFSI space, they are able to analyze the data at a much shorter time and understand it is a customer is a product, and we are in a position to leverage that product effectively.
Add on to that with an example because So I think when we say it is contextual, it's like momentary and it keeps changing, right? And one of the things that I was reading about was like an innovative insurance product, right? You have an iPhone and probably you are in the downtown or ghettos or somewhere, and you don't feel safe taking that. I mean, you might have a fear that it might get stolen, and you want to have an insurance for that 1 hour or 2 hours where you're going to spend. Can an organization give me an insurance product for that time at that moment? And can you get into that micro sort of a thing? And do you have enough data and intelligence that you can gather about the customer, their profile, and can you push an offer to me that way? So I think that's where the world and people are offering.
It is done. If you take Ola, they give you the insurance for 5 rupees insurance only for the travel. Yes. They've started tailor-made to that experience, but it has not yet come to the larger aspect of it.
No, agree. In fact, insurtech companies made a big difference. Cycle insurance, baggage insurance, they made a big difference in that aspect. Remarkable points, maybe 1 or 2 last points we'll take. And Tavaria sir, I want to ask you now, what are some of the potential traps or blind spots in kickstarting these data initiatives within these organizations?
You need to see the value. See, it is one is data and one is information. Okay, there's a lot of data but very little information at times. So it's like newspapers, and that's like economy. You can give 5 rupees, otherwise it's not possible to give 5 rupees. Okay, there is a newspaper of that. So there's too much of data, but what you want to read or what is the highlights? Okay, so that's where the pitfalls are, because I'm telling from experiences. Like initially, people used to think is whatever data that you have got, just put it into your warehouse. Like so typically the warehouse was used like more of a pseudo backup, like alternative backups, like which is you dump the warehouse is so huge, but ultimately what you wanted the information was not available. Like it's trying to search needle in a haystack. Like that's a typical blind spot when you start just pushing the data into warehouse, assuming that you'll get, but you don't assume what it's basically garbage in, garbage out. But unfortunately, still people are not realizing that. I mean, that's typically in many of the organizations I've seen that, because when I talked to a couple of my colleague friends, they said, "How did you do it?" But I said, "We actually undid what we did." So it was, we realized that we are doing something wrong. Okay, so basically, then you need to be thoughtful of, like, you need to qualify your data, or you parameterize your data, or you put your thing, what you want to actually see a value which will be helping you in the future to do, and not just any data. Like I said, there is something which is least common denominator, like something like you really have to do it for your industry, and you know your industry best. So you need to fine tune. I think that is the biggest, this AI and ML and all this jargon that are being thrown up. I mean, it'll be far more easier. You save. You won't believe that the amount of savings that you have in the compute, because you're not trying to find needle in a haystack. You are actually data, and you're trying to make a meaningful. So your compute power also goes. It's a huge saving, because you don't try to duplicate data from 10 different sources, the same data. Today that is also happening. Like you said also, there are isolations of islands of data, but it's common data running in 10 places. Actually, we started doing away with all this. It takes a lot of effort and a journey. Like it's easier said than done, but it has to be really if the organization feels like it, you might have to unlearn and relearn, because that requires, I would say, a lot of guts in the organization. To unlearn, it's not very easy. It is because it is also all the effort has been put to do this, but it was a wrong thing. Now, whether you want to do this and undo and do it, I think that is the biggest, from my side, I feel that's one of the biggest flaws that is being practiced very rigorously, but somehow it's not, because warehouse have been thought all systems should throw everything into the warehouse. Okay, that's the underlying statements being made everywhere, and which is not the way it should be done.
Right. Yeah, sure.
I'll just add to that. I think there are two aspects of data. One is you're clear what you're looking for. So that needs a clean data, right? And that's where the effort needs to happen, that whether we talk about data warehouse, analytics is a derivation, is that the origination of the data is happening on the application side. No data warehouse creates data, right? And so there is data cleansing, standardization. There's a lot of efforts need to be put in, right? So that you know that what you are getting is a clean data from which you can generate meaningful insights / information. Otherwise, right? The other part of it is where it is like data exploration, right? And data science, which is you don't discard anything, right? And run large algorithms to find out, are you getting any meaningful insights or correlation? That's where machine learning and things coming in, right? But a machine learning model is only evolved when you run it for a period and you see that here is a huge set of data from which, there are 100 variables. Now, after running this and exploring this, I actually found 10 variables which is making useful. So till that time, you keep on exploring on that huge data. But your businesses also runs on certain clean data, which is the other part of it. So these two has to go in parallel. I mean, you can't expect the real business numbers that you are seeing. There you will have some garbage. Then it is. But the other side is that because I have been doing this and this is how it is coming, I stop here. That's also not. You have to explore with different set of so many variables and then see what is coming out. So these two has to go hand in hand.
Okay. Noted your point. So one again quick question with the rest of the panelists, and the important one, since we're discussing segment of one, again all these 3-4 aspects, and how the data is going to build the next BFSI level. So Sandeep, let me come to you, and maybe then I will go to Hari and Murli also. What is it that the BFSI companies needs to do now, considering maybe a 2 to 3 years of timeline, so that they will fall under the whole category of segment 1, or they will be fall under maybe the content, security, aspect, data, all those things will be there in this parameter. What is it that they should do or start doing from now, according to you?
I think a lot of points did get covered as well. So for example, data warehouse that's touched upon, it's essentially data strategy needs to be defined for the companies. I don't think so a lot of companies have a well-defined data strategy. Second is this whole digital or data segment of one, digital transformation, whatever you may name it, is not only a function of IT, technology or digital business, right? This is also a function of process. This is also a function of people, because end of the day, what goes inside the data warehouse is getting created by some people based on some processes that were created. Unless those are also changed, we will never be able to get meaningful insights from the data warehouse or the data that is getting collected. So that is a big shift that the financial institutions need to make change. And what has happened is, since we are so heavily regulated, coming from NBFC, I'm saying, it's very hard to change a lot of these processes because we have been working in a similar fashion over a period of time. So that is the biggest change in terms of process, people, and the system itself that we need to bring in. And I think the problem is real, right? So because what differentiates now in a financial industry, and I'm talking about only NBFCs and banks which offer, say, loans, right? It's not the product differentiation anymore. It's a service that is getting differentiated. How faster I can give a loan to the customer, how customized I can give a loan to the customer, right? If we have to achieve those differentiation and have a edge over the competition, we need to think on those lines. And that is where I think a lot of companies have started. But I will go back to the previous one where I said it is not a tactical thing, it's a strategy thing. A lot of companies are falling in the trap where they do tactical stuff and they do a lot of, say, promos, etc. We have done this, achieved this. And then if you check with them after a year, probably that would not even exist, right? So I'm saying that is a trap that we need to get out of in financial institutions, and we need to have a complete view and the strategy. The most important thing is the senior management in for it. Unless it has the senior management buy-in, trust me, this is never going to go through.
Sure, very notable points. Hari, go on.
See, two important things which Sandeep said. Okay, the data strategy. If you ask, in the current ecosystem, IT ecosystem, do we have enough materials or knowledge available on how to build data, how to harness data, how to take the benefit out of the data? Is all available. Okay, there are specialists available. Everything is available. It's not that it's not. It exists. It's been practiced by good number of enterprises. But what is not there is, in the larger enterprises, the organization do not have a maturity to understand the power of the data, which is the bigger issue. Okay, so what happens is they don't go into that environment only, ecosystem only of building data, harnessing one. Okay, second one, they build it, but they don't know how to do it. They only help storage companies. Beyond there is nothing. They keep building data out. They don't know what to do with the data because thought process changed. They don't have an understanding of how to do this. So the senior management buy-in is very important, and every organization which makes money from a customer need to have a well-defined data strategy. If without this, I mean, you will only create infrastructure. Beyond that is no use. Okay, you have to start storing the data, harness the data, and take the power and see what you need to do. This comes from the top. It just cannot just happen. We cannot just produce data, right? The data is produced by customer doing some transaction, and you have to store the data when customer does the transaction with you. You can't do it later because that's gone. Then next day you have a different transaction. So this strategy and understand this organization maturity is very important, and that's a point which I wanted to add to all the enterprises, who are dealing with customers and revenues and making any kind of income from customer, have to have a well-defined data strategy and create a ecosystem to harness the power of the data.
Okay, Murli.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you two perspectives. One on the problem solution side of things in terms of you want to do personalization at scale. There are 4 aspects, actually 3 or 4 aspects that we see as a typical thing. One, we touched upon that in terms of data ownership itself, right? I think data lake and having a specialist team sitting there trying to make meaning out of all these source systems where people have produced, data is a broken model. Because and where we are seeing a shift is move it closer to the people who knows the data, right? And that's where we have domain-driven design, how microservices or how a DevOps kind of revolutionize. We are seeing a new paradigm shift called data mesh, and that's like a techno-social change. It's not a technical change; it's a techno-social change. So can you start treating data like products and move it closer to people who knows about it, who have a complete context of what that data means, and then make it self-service available to who you want to consume, right? Because the staleness of data is also very natural sort of a thing. I mean, what is relevant 1 hour ago is not even so. I think move it closer to people who know about it. So that's one shift that's happening. Second, I think what we are seeing a big challenge with regard to the operational cost of the increasing data size and volume, and one solution seems to be push everything to cloud. There's a lot of innumerable amount of space, but the cost of it is really, really high. How do you optimize it, like cloud economics, or and the relevancy of the data? Do you really want to keep it, or is it like stale and can I remove it, sort of a thing? So there is an operational element to it. Then there is this manual handoff element to it in terms of you run campaigns and things like that. There is always an IT and a business side of it. Somebody who's designed a campaign, and then they'll have to go tell, hey, IT team, can you please now push it to all the relevant channels, sort of a thing. So that is another area where we feel things there. The last one is around the source data itself, because you're getting from a ubiquitous number of sources, and the quality of data, the data governance that part of strategy, but from a governance point of view itself, the quality of data that goes in needs to be really controlled. You cannot have, one side talking about customer ID, another talking about CIF ID, and another talking about something else, going and somebody trying to figure out what does it mean, and there is a set of data scientists sitting there trying to, either harmonize it, moderate it, and give him some meaning. I think all these things have to sort of, work in tandem to make sure we are ready for scale. The last element, which is sort of a different aspect to thinking about data itself, is sometimes the way in which the data hype or data is air, data is oil, and all those things is sometimes data is more valuable than the actual relationship. But we call it profilicity and all those things. Everybody is known for profiles, and the value of data is much more than the actual relationship, right? And we tend to sort of over-invest based on the data itself, and forgetting that sometimes a quick call and having a one-to-one messaging or this one makes a lot more in terms of understanding people, not just patterns, right? Because data gives you patterns, but you don't really know the context, right? And that's got to do with the feeling and logic and how you act certain moment in time. That's not you, right? You are you as an individual, and the context matters. So that's the other part of the side where while we do heavy on data and data profiles, genomes and microsegment and this one, but once in a while we are humans, and I think that part of it is also need to be taken care of.
Yeah, sure. I think quite meaningful thoughts and different perspectives. But I think the bottom line is data strategy, and that's quite meaningful one. I think the time is already up, but thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing remarkable insights here. Thank you so much, Murli, Nilotpal, Sandeep, and Hari and Karsi sir for sharing insights here and taking out time to join this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.